Hello and welcome back to another Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Pascal, and on the other end, it is Steve Hall. We are ticking off the boxes 1 week at a time. Steve is coming closer and closer to his very much kind of last shows. This is definitely something that we are going to talking about glutes coming in, qualifying for Worlds, all the kind of jazz. But first and foremost, of course, I want to know how you are, Steve.
Talking about the glutes, there's someone here who has been showing off their glutes on social media quite a lot.
Yeah, he
Probably
has.
It's not a catfish, is it? You've just been like those, I don't know, the girls who show off their butt but don't show their face. It's like in those sort of shots. And I'm just like, oh, Pascal, you bunny boy, that.
Yeah.
And they're coming in. You've never had your glutes looking that lean though, right?
No. So they're coming in, and this is why it was kind of surprising at some point. It's like you at sometimes when you told me about it, that you catch yourself kind of at the angle of your eye. Oh, what was that? And then you're going back to the mirror, flexing the glutes a little bit. This always happens to me in the morning because whenever I get up in the morning, go downstairs, make myself a coffee, make myself a whey shake, and in our hall there's then a mirror, and this is I'm passing that one whenever I'm going into the kitchen, and the kitchen lighting falls always very, very good to that spot, and I can always then see like my glutes, and I was just like, oh yeah, nice. So that's why I wanted to take advantage of this situation and always take some snapshots of my glutes.
Do you have it one side leaner than the other, and also is it just from the side that they're starting to come in now, or is it the rear?
Yeah, so my left side is leaner than my right side.
Opposite to me.
I can even feel it.
You can
feel it. And then from the rear, I would have to take some new physique pictures now, because when I take some pictures or videos or so from the back, you can still see everything moving around the fibers and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really think that there are like very, very deep cuts or lines in there yet. But this is something that I would have to wait and see for the next physique update pictures, which I wanted to take. So right now I'm finishing week number 3. I just finished week number 3. Now is week number 4 of my mesocycle, and I wanted to take some physique pictures here after week number 4 then. Just to see.
You're in the same week as me.
I am.
I'm in week 4 as well.
See? But then I wanted to take some physique pictures. It's not such as you where I'm now posing and practicing each and every single day, or like more frequently, where I then have the chance to always analyze my physique. I don't have to. I don't have to.
Yeah. Man, on that note, I imagine other competitors can feel me on this. But over the last 2 or so weeks, I've become way less motivated to pose and to check my posing very much. I think part of it is because it's in a good place. And so like it's kind of going through the motions, and I'm not tweaking poses all the time. And I'm just like, I'm doing the same thing. And also because changes are becoming slower at this point. And I'll put it this way, definitely on like power saver mode, like your mobile phone, you put it on that, certain apps don't work. It doesn't let you use the camera, for example, stuff like this. And I can definitely see myself not just shutting down different functions within my body, but my brain, it's like I've got a smaller list of vocabulary. My memory storage is worse. I think of a word, I know it, but I can't say it. And just like not wanting to do as much. Like think about my range in terms of like what I want to do. Like if I have to do an extra task or chore in a day, I'm like, fuck that. Like I just want to get my training done, eat my food, do my client work. Like I kind of like I'm wanting to do less and less and less. I'm wanting to come into my shell more and more and more, which I think is completely normal and natural. It's funny, I had a client he's been quite social during his prep, and he came to London for a weekend, came home, and he was fucked. Like he was so exhausted. He was asking to build food up and things like this. And I was like, give it a few days, see how you feel. And he said he took a Saturday to himself, didn't talk to anyone. And he was like, it was such a good day, not talking to anyone, just being on my own. And this is why prep is super unsustainable. One of the big reasons, because I still want to be productive in my social life, with relationships, with work. but I am struggling with some of those extracurricular activities. So like posing is definitely something I'm like, could really do without having to pose. And I told you I wanted to do another posing routine with new music. And I've got some music, but I was like, for me to remix that, to get a new posing routine together, I've decided I'm not doing it anymore, because I'm just like, it's not worth the stress. Like, it's not even marked a lot of the time. I'll just continue with the one I've got. It's in here. I don't have to, it's like learning a new like instrument, or like riding a different bike or something. It's like, I can ride this one. It's good enough. So yeah, that's an interesting and, to be honest, unpleasant, unwanted change, but a necessary one for me over the last few weeks.
Yeah, that's why I have we've talked about it a couple of times over the past episodes, but that's why I have such massive respect for everyone who's making it to stage, but especially the ones who are more so in their maybe late 20s, early 30s, who have very small kids at home, who, I don't know, maybe are self-employed running a business or so, right? Or even if it's just like they are employees, but it's very, very stressful because maybe they have a leading position or so. Massive respect for those individuals, especially when they are getting to those ultra lean levels. And the one who comes to mind, which we talked about, or who we talked about like last week already, is Brett Freeman, for example. He has a wife at home, kid at home as well, super busy in terms of work, especially when at his last prep, I think he was still working in the wedding event kind of.
I think he still does.
He still does, yeah. So very, very busy when it comes to that. And he had to function, right? And I don't think that this is an easy thing to juggle, because I can already feel it at times right now. I even, without going too much into detail, of course, even sat down with Katie yesterday. It wasn't a pleasant chat that we had. I don't know how much of it was or is due to me cutting, but I don't think it's a good excuse or a valid thing to actually push forward and say like, hey, no, this is I'm cutting, right? And that's why. No. Right, and wasn't pleasant, and especially because of that, because I can see how challenging it is already now in certain situations, not the diet itself, but everything that it may impact around you, right? You could be absolutely selfish and you could just do your own thing, but probably you would leave a lot of corpses behind if you just do that. And that's why I have massive respect for especially the ones who have so many things still going on while still making it to stage in a very insane shape.
And I'll give props to Arne, who just competed recently at the GmbF, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Was it the GmbF?
No, it was the ANBF. GmbF is now coming up next week, actually.
Cool. Yeah, so he's in peaking again, and he has a newborn just over like very recently, and he is getting in pretty insane shape. Like conditioning was one of his like calling cards on stage, and he's in very good shape. So, and he's taking it all on really, really well. But he also said the last 6 months, he was in this week's check-in, he was like, it was all worth it for that one show. Yeah. Like it made it all worth it. So to not put too many people off, because he has a newborn, he's self-employed, he does one-on-one PT and online coaching, like, and he's made it work. He may be like a freak of nature, but he's done very, very well to get there. But I know what you're saying in that regard. I've said it to a few clients, and I have to remind myself, whenever Charlotte like is saying to me, I don't know, you're being unreasonable, or you're being a bit of a jerk or anything, and I don't feel like I am being, I'm like, I know I am being. Like, just, I'm in prep. I have to be. I just let her win.
How should I put it? I'm someone, I said it already, sometimes in the past, who can be perceived as quite cold-hearted at times. And I also I know that I can be very cold-hearted if I indifferent about someone, for example, then you can really feel it, right? And I would be curious as to or how it is for you. Have you felt any kind of emotional changes for you when it comes to certain things because of the diet itself, that it's what changes your entire perception, and because physiologically speaking, or evolutionary speaking, it's normal, or it would be actually quite logical if your priorities are changing without you even noticing it. You know where I'm coming from? That so many things are actually less important to you, even though that you know that they aren't. But due to you actually getting leaner, it actually moves in the shadows, and that's why you may not give people the attention or the love they deserve, for example.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I definitely have been a bit more closed off towards reaching out to like friends or family, or like Charlotte's been super busy at work, so it's kind of hard to say. We haven't been spending as much time together, and that's probably driven me the wrong way in terms of being more focused on just daily tasks and bodybuilding and being isolated. I did see my best friend over the weekend, which was great to talk to him, but I was tired, like walking around London with a weighted vest on. So it has been challenging. But one of the things I can definitely speak towards is, this is a really weird thing that I've noticed, is that I seem to care less about certain things. So I think I'm a little bit less understanding and empathetic in general. So
that's exactly what I was looking for, actually.
Yeah, I can give an example.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, we were on the pavement, and these three kids came cycling along, and they almost cycled into Charlotte. And she was like, normally, or both of us even, and normally if people are cycling on the pavement and stuff, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm just like, whatever, they're cycling on the pavement. And Charlotte normally has a go, because she's like, they shouldn't be on the pavement, they blah, blah, blah. Whereas this time round, I actually had a go at them, and he had a go back at me, and I didn't give a shit. Normally, I would have like adrenaline rush, my heart would be pumping and pounding, and I just had nothing. It's like my heart rate didn't even go up. It's like, that's not a big enough concern for you right now, Steve. You're starving. It was kind of like, I was like, is that why? Like, biologically, my body's just, that's not a threat. He was like a big kid, basically. I wasn't scared of him, but still, just me getting that riled up and like just talking him down. I mean, normally I wouldn't react. And secondarily, if I did, I would have got an adrenaline rush. I didn't get either. I reacted and didn't even get like a concern. And even like, I don't know, small things, I can talk about it maybe on Instagram, and someone messages me with like, I don't know, just one of those annoying questions. And normally I'd be like, oh, understandable. Like, and I talk about it. Whereas now I'm a bit more closed off, and I'm a bit like, I'm not taking no bullshit. So I've definitely noticed those elements, and maybe with like people in my surroundings, possibly even clients, and I try and not allow it to affect the client work, but maybe a little bit less understanding. I don't know if someone's giving me reasons why they haven't adhered or something like that. Maybe I'm a little less understanding than I would be if I was in a well-fed state, possibly. I'm not sure. I don't think it has impacted client work like that, but definitely sometimes my thoughts go that way for sure. Or like Charlotte's, I don't know, eating something or doing something, and I'm like in my head thinking, why are you eating like that? You should be eating this. And I know it's a diet-related thought, so I don't speak it out or say anything. But yeah, you get those feelings coming through.
Yeah, because I said already that we had a chat yesterday, and there were some things that she said. And I know that normally I would have reacted a little bit more. I would have had a more emotional reaction to it as well. Because these were severe things. They are impacting me, and I normally do care about these things. I know that. And this time I just sat there, and it's even hard to say it out loudly, but inside me, nothing changed. There was no emotional reaction to it. It was like as if I was indifferent about it, which I know I am not. Right? And it made me then like try to stay rational and try to explain it in my head to myself and really think about it like, all right, I know you care, but maybe you may not perceive it as such right now, but you do care, and you don't want to actually do anything harmful that you then regret like afterwards, just because you're now in a position where perhaps physiologically speaking, you don't care as much, but normally you really do care about what is said right now.
I think this might be one of the reasons why a lot of bodybuilders date bodybuilders, or you see bodybuilders dating bikini competitors or physique competitors. because I don't know, you kind of prep together, or they understand it more, or I'm not sure. It's just easier to live that really kind of selfish lifestyle with someone else who's very happy to do it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm in many ways grateful not to be in that situation, because it keeps you humble. It keeps you a bit grounded. I think it makes me a bit of a better coach as well, because I understand other people are in a similar position, and not many people are, I don't know, both online coaches and physique competitors, like married and no kids or something. It's like, that's quite an extreme dedication towards bodybuilding, and very specific. And I can see why that flourishes for various reasons. But yeah, I can see why that it goes that way, because it will be a bit easier. It's kind of similar to like, it's easier actually now for me to not socialize and not do these extracurricular activities. And that might be looked as, oh, you're going enjoying like a day with your friend, and I don't know, whatever, you flex with your diet a little bit. It's like, well, actually that's harder for me to do so than just doing my steps, just watching YouTube, and just like, I don't know, doing all my bodybuilding activities. But it's kind of the harder route versus the easier route. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
do you then think that some people make it unnecessarily harder on themselves when it comes to dieting, because they still want to socialize, but the situation itself makes it harder, not just because they are in a diet, but also due to the things that you just brought up?
There's a middle ground, I think, because I think I will always want to encourage someone, especially if they're not in prep, to like continue to enjoy a social life. And I think you can still enjoy. I think some people unfortunately think like, oh, if I'm socializing, I have to drink. And it's like, no, these are some of the lifestyle changes we can make, where you socialize and, I don't know, maybe you have bottles of beer versus pints, and then you transition towards like a gin and tonic, and then a slimline, and then maybe you only have like 1 or 2 drinks. You get more and more specific as you enjoy bodybuilding more. In prep, I think it can be easy to close yourself off from the world. And that's what I try and hold people against, because it comes back to the old discussion of like, what if that was taken away from you? And what relationships have you got after prep has ended? Have you burnt bridges? And really you realize, that was just a few months where it was kind of a necessity. But on the other hand, I have someone like my client, Shimon, hopefully he doesn't mind me saying his name, who did come over to London, and he made it ultimately harder on himself by doing so. And though in those moments where he's weeks out from a show, that is more where I'm encouraging him to be like, okay, I know you still want to be social with your girlfriend and do activities. You love that. Can you, for a short period of time, get a bit more specific towards our goal of bodybuilding and put those on the back burner, or replace them with activities like, I don't know, say you always like to go and eat out at a luxurious restaurant every week. Can you make some food from home that's macro accounted for, and make it a luxurious experience from home that's more goal driven? So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but I think there's a bit of a middle ground where you can go to extreme either end, where it starts hurting you ultimately.
Yeah. Sometimes I have the feeling that now that we're talking about it, that people want it, even though that it's not the best thing to do, because they can't really control themselves as much as they wish for. And then they are putting themselves in a situation that they can't handle or master, at least not right now. Because maybe they have not the experience, maybe they, I don't know, in that situation, not the willpower or the egoism of sticking with what it is that you need or want to do, while at the same time participating. I'm not saying that this is the weak-hearted or so. This has nothing to do with this. I think that everyone has their own packages to bear and things that they have a harder time with than others. And socializing is just a normal part or just a very, very important part for many people. When they are then putting themselves in that situation and it's failing, then it's most of the time because it is a challenging situation in it for itself, right? And then they are always trying it, even though that they may not be in the position of controlling it.
I think I'll take a bit of a brunt here, but I do see people sometimes use it as an excuse, and this I'm not okay with, where they do a social event and they're like, oh, I had to drink such and such amount of pints because my friends made me, or I had to have chips because for whatever reason that's what was on offer, or what, there could be a variety of things. It's like, this person forced me to do this, or my girlfriend forced me to do this, or whatever. And I'm like, whoever you are, like boyfriend, girlfriend, no one can force you to do anything. You're in control of you. So take responsibility. No one's forcing you to have that cake, that slice of cake. A family member might be if you turn them down for a slice of cake and you explain, for my like physical well-being, health, everything, I just don't want this right now. My goals are super important to me. It looks amazing. I really want to have it, but I'm okay not having it. And if they get a little bit upset by that, cool. They'll be upset for like an hour, and then they'll be like, oh, I don't know, I completely forgot that you never had my slice of cake. They're not going to hold this grudge against you for the rest of their life. I think sometimes people like to use it as a bit of a scapegoat for their own want to kind of not be in the hard position of what dieting is. It's hard to restrict yourself. So they kind of use other people as an excuse. And I think when you do that, you divulge your power to control your own outcome. Whereas when you take control and you own every action, you're like, oh, I decided to have that slice of cake that my, sister offered me. And I decided that was worth it to me. It was a priority. Whereas you might decide, okay, I did decide to have that, and actually it wasn't worth it. So next time you learn to turn it down or whatever. But yeah, I don't like divulging power to other people.
I think, though, this is a common phenomenon that you see in every aspect of life. We see it all the time, also politics, whatever, you name it. Doesn't specifically just apply to their nutrition, because it always happens. So much easier than to just like blame others for something than maybe seek the failure at yourself. So, or if you're just complaining about politics, you're not a politician. Why? Right? If you're really so concerned about it, or you really think that it's so fucked up, then go into politics, especially in a democracy like ours. I could become a parliament member if I really want to. I just have to commit the work and effort and actually getting there. Right? But I don't want to most of the time. That's the thing. And then it's so much easier to just like, seek for excuses without realizing. I don't think that the vast majority of people are doing that intentionally. It's more like a subtle thing or a subconscious thing that just happens without them even realizing that this is just kind of the scapegoat, as you put it.
Yeah.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
Have you had any other diet symptoms kicking in since we last spoke?
I mean, libido is actually kind of, it's not gone, of course, but it's like, I also care very much less about it. Even cuddling and stuff like that is like,
it's effort.
And exactly, it's effort, because I have to do it, because it's not just about me. It's a relationship that I want to have for the rest of my life. And if I don't actively think about it and intentionally do something good for then Katie, even if I don't feel like it, she may get the impression that I don't love her anymore, that I don't find her attractive anymore. Because just recently we went out, and I told you about it, I think, that we, for the first time in a very long time, we were able to go out, eat something in a restaurant. I think it was the first time in over a year that we actually went into a restaurant, and we had the entire evening for ourselves. And I was like, after the restaurant, I was like, I don't even know what to do. Let's go home, right? After the restaurant. And I wasn't aware of that up until like yesterday, when we also had that chat, that Katie actually wanted to continue doing something, maybe even going to the cinema or taking a walk in the park. And I didn't notice that in the moment, because I just turned down all the offers that she made, and I didn't really come up with an alternative offer. I was just like, nah, let's just go home. Right? And of course, this gives her the impression that I don't want to spend any kind of quality time together. And I wasn't realizing it up until the point that she told me about it. And this is, I think, super important then to be even more alert when it comes to these things, to maybe do more for the other partner than necessary, or that you're usually doing, because you don't have the drive to actually get physical or something like that, you know?
Yeah, this is why I've mentioned it a few times, I think, where I'm like, just every other weekend, I'm just buy some flowers for Charlotte, just because I know I'm probably not being as appreciative as I should be. And it's an easy little thing that I can do. Or, I don't know, I'm in the supermarket buying my like diet food. Oh, I know she likes this like chocolate or this whatever it is that she normally likes. And I'm just going to make sure I have that. Like, or walking Ada where Charlotte's tired and doesn't want to. I'm like, this is still ultimately productive towards my goal of fat loss. Let's just do this. I know I don't really want to walk there with Ada. I want to do the walk on my own or whatever. But I have only so much like I said, range and like power to go towards things. These are things that I need to do anyway, or they're easy things to do. And she understands it as well. I'm sure Katie is starting to understand what it's like. But and the good thing is it does quickly come back. You do quickly get more energy for other things. But it's funny how you do just, like I said at the start, you just start going into your shell. You just want to be at home all the time. Just like, I don't know, eat your food, do your bits of work, do the minimal things. I found my bedtime slowly crept earlier, like 9:30, and I'm starting like, maybe I'll go to bed. Part of it is I finish my food a little bit earlier than usual because I'm just like, I should just eat it now. I'm just going to eat it now. Yeah. And part of it was also just I get fatigued earlier as well, which is, I mean, it makes sense, but
this is also a good point because for me, it's the exact same thing. Probably not as severe as it is for you, but I'm getting up now all the time before the alarm, which was not always the case when I was still eating plenty. I was sometimes, especially on the weekends and when I don't have client check-ins, and the gym is first opening at 9, I sometimes slept into 6 to 7, which is quite long for me already. And now, even on the weekends and in the midst of the week, I'm waking up at around 4:30. Now, people are like, what? I'm also going to bed at around 9. So let that be said. But yeah, the sleeping time for me also gets shorter now. But everything is still to a reasonable extent, I have to say. This is nothing where I'm in the position where I'm complaining or so. It's still reasonable.
I've just
what was your thought?
I had one big thing that's changed that's really annoying me at the moment. I'm peeing loads. Like basically, I'll drink like, I don't know, a glass of water, and it will immediately need to come out.
Have you counted how often you're going to the toilet?
No, I need to start doing it. I might actually start counting
right now.
How many pees and poos.
I think I'm going to the toilet like 10 times, 11 times per day or so. And I always need to go to the toilet before I'm leaving the house.
Yes.
Even if I don't feel like peeing, I need to go to the toilet to empty everything so that I'm not running a risk of needing to pee when I'm outside. And this can only 40 minutes can pass where I'm taking a longer walk. Then I come back and need to pee so badly.
It was really bad this weekend in London. I just had to be like, mate, I need to go back and go pee. Just had this like, and the worst thing is I'm also thirsty. I'm like, why am I thirsty but also need to pee? Yeah. It's just been relentless. So are you waking up to pee?
Yeah, once
in the night?
though.
Once. That's not bad.
So, yeah, in the middle of the night it's not that bad, but it's also because I really try to not drink much anymore after like 4 p.m.
Oh, wow.
I really force myself not to have too much to drink. It's more like maybe 700 milliliters of like additional fluid that I'm then taking in after that. Which sounds also there like a lot for a lot of people, but to me it's like I'm normally drinking around 4 to 5 liters per day. And yeah, so still, yeah, like, I mean, I'm getting up. So before I'm actually going to sleep, I'm going to the toilet. Then in the middle of the night, I'm going to the toilet. And then when I'm waking up, my bladder is full and I really need to go to the toilet. So yeah.
Mine's moved. 2 is good if I wake up just twice. Yeah. Normally I go to bed at like 10. It'll then be like midnight and then 3 in the morning. And then normally, hopefully I get to 6 and then I need to pee and I get up. Yeah. Sometimes I wake up like 5 and I've got to pee. So I'm getting towards, at the high end, 3. I've not gone to 4. God, I don't want to go to 4. Which is still less than my peak of previous preps of like 7.
The podcast turned into like negative things that can happen when you are in a caloric deficit.
Yeah.
So anything else?
Let's just keep it up. It's all awful.
Have you noticed anything else in regards to, for example, I don't know, around food or so? Are you now starting to actually have some very weird habits or so already?
I found myself preparing food a little bit earlier because there's something I enjoy about, if I'm preparing it, my food is almost not worried about being hungry. So I like to prepare meals a little bit sooner. And I've slowly transitioned. The biggest change with food is that me and Charlotte aren't even eating dinners together anymore. Yeah. That's partly a consequence of, I could see it happening with her work. She's very focused on wanting basically what's it called? Not a wage increase. It's a promotion. There you go. She wants this promotion. So she's working very late. And so often she'd be back after the time I'd normally want to eat. I could see it happening. So I was just like, I'm pushing harder in the diet. You're starting to get home later. It's too much of a stress for me to us eat together. So that's one big change. I'm having like a salad, and like normally it's like a soy replacement or maybe some salmon.
By the way, Steve, no, I keep that thought. Continue.
Okay. But no, nothing major apart from I've just basically moving to many more diet foods and finding myself enjoying like my breakfast. I'm like obsessed with. I'm like, oh, I love this. I never want it to end. I'm like enjoying it way too much. I'm like, I have not felt this I have not enjoyed food as much as I do now as I can ever remember. But no, nothing weird. I'm having more decaf coffees, a little bit more caffeine in my day, and now and then letting myself have like 2 diet drinks in the day versus just 1. But no, nothing else, I don't think. Nothing weird particularly.
This is not the thought that I had. But this is also one that I wanted to bring up. If food is so satisfying at the moment, right? It's just, no matter what it is that you are having, it's just the shit, right? Have you ever been to a Michelin star restaurant while you are in the depth of your contest prep?
I think probably the best I've done is after my first show, we went to Duck and Waffle. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
It's in the Gherkin. It's next to the Gherkin, which you might have heard of, like quite a famous building in London. Okay. Duck and Waffle's like at the top of a building. It probably is close, if not Michelin star. Yeah. It's kind of similar to if you ate in the Shard or something, one of their fancy restaurants. And yeah, we had like a full course of dinners.
Isn't that's probably the closest? Just like the craziest and most delicious thing that you've ever tasted, like, I don't know, Touched by Angels or something like that?
I can't remember it being that amazing. I think this time it will be more real. But I think I'll probably end up having like a Domino's. Actually, no, it depends where I am.
It still tastes like the best pizza in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you said at the start, my final show might be in like a month's time, but it might not be, depending on how things go.
Yeah.
And so I won't enjoy a post-show meal like that.
Maybe the final show will be in Vegas, and then I don't know what to do then afterwards. Maybe we are both getting married. I don't know.
I'm going to marry my trophy. So no, nothing else particularly.
Okay, then we're coming to my other question, which is not really related then to like negative effects of a deficit, but still something just on the side, because you just released, I think 1 week ago, the last self-recorded vlog, like happy vegan New Year or so. And I think this was one of the videos where we had the most downvotes and most vocal comments on ever. Yeah. People and I'm just like, vocal. Why are people so upset when someone else decides to actually go more with a plant-based diet, or when someone is actually then, I don't know, liking to be something like a carnivore or so? Why? I mean, I know why, or I can at least assume why, but I just wanted to hear your take on the matter, because of course it also impacts you, because you are deciding to make that transition, instead of being like, hey, good for you if you want to do that, totally fine. But everyone is just always throwing around with counter arguments as to why veganism is better for the environment, and then there comes someone saying like, no, this is absolute bullshit. I have like 10 studies that show the I don't know, the opposite of it.
Yeah, it surprises me, but also doesn't surprise me, because I think the most vocal people are often the most extreme, whereas actually the majority of people land in the middle. And I think they just don't have a big voice within there because they're not extreme and they're not in a camp. Whereas when you get into a camp, you're really like, your heart is devoted towards a certain way of eating and diet. But the most vegans I've spoken to, one of being your past clients, actually Morgan, I've spoken to him in depth about like veganism. He's a bodybuilder as well, and kind of talking about his transition. And like, he's very reasonable, and he isn't like, I don't know, like you imagine some vegans are like very much, oh, you're a murderer, you're a terrible person, blah, blah, blah. But I'm shocked at the other end where people are like, oh, veganism for ethical reasons, that's a complete bullshit. And it's like, well, I mean,
and it isn't as good for the environment as they make it out to be. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a researcher. I'm not an... I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a researcher, so I have not the idea about it. And it's more like, especially for ethical reasons, not in particular about the environment, it can be good, may not be good. I don't know. Also, it could change if now everyone turns into plant-based diet. Maybe it has then even more detrimental outcomes to the environment as well. But it's more like a living being doesn't really need to be murdered for you. That's just my take. And I'm still eating meat, right? And that's coming out of my mouth, where I'm like, and this impacts me much more now. I don't know why, probably because I have kids now at home, but whenever I see something like this, it now impacts or gets much closer to me than in my early 20s. In my early 20s, I was just like, you can show me as much of animal slaughter as you want to. I'm still going to eat my steak. I don't know, if I now watch this, I'm just like, oh, is that really necessary? But sorry, I did interrupt you there.
Yeah, I just think part of it is also ethics are not an objective thing, are they really? They're kind of subjective. Whereas environmental impacts, I think, are more objective, and people cherry pick. And because it is a new emerging area, I think people just like to cherry pick and they like to argue, when in reality it's very nuanced. And I enjoy discovering more about it. And like you said, you're still eating meat. I'm still eating animal products. I eat mostly vegetarian now, but I don't see myself ever going completely one way, because I think there are probably more humane meats and maybe humane ways of having those as well, possibly, that still allow you to enjoy it. But some people are very much like, I don't know, if you're eating an animal product, you're bad. Even if you're having honey, that's bad. Like, there's people that take it to that extreme, but ultimately there's people that, like, I don't know, they seem to think completely the opposite. And it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. It's an emerging area that I find interesting. And I think in the past, ignorance was bliss for me, where I was just like, oh yeah, I just didn't want to know about it because I knew it would have this impact on me. Like, I'd have an emotional response of, okay, that's not nice. Whereas now I'm like, I don't want to be ignorant to it. I actually want to know what I'm eating and what impact that's having on animals and on the planet, and be a bit more of a, I don't know, a well-rounded individual in some ways. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I just found it funny because I saw the video and I was just like getting always notifications that someone else commented on it. I was, once again, the same typical spiel. Yeah, it is what it is. Go back to the topic. So you said that you don't experience any kind of downsides or other negative adaptations to the diet. When it comes though to training, what's with your legs? Do they feel like jelly already, or do they still feel absolutely fine and full of energy?
Definitely not full of energy. I'm kind of in the last few weeks, like you noticed in a photo I just sent you, kind of running perma-flat. Even with refeeds, they're not like filling me out particularly. I'm also not enjoying posing and stuff like that. I don't feel like I can get as good contractions, which I think is partly down to the muscles just not being very full of glycogen. I'm struggling with that. My legs feel heavy walking around and stuff. I find my posture is worse. I'm getting a bit lazier in that regard. But my actual training wise, touch wood, I'm still holding on to performance. My volume's low for me. It's not like super low. I'm still sticking around basically like we talked about actually during the mini cut Q&A. I'm sticking around my week 1 volumes and not really moving from that, which is still a ample amount to maintain muscle mass. And I'm just happy. I'm still getting some pumps, a little bit, definitely getting disruption within the session. Like I feel like my quads are like, poof, my hamstrings are really, really pretty damn hard worked. And yeah, training performance is holding. So I'm pretty pleased about that. And I'd put that mostly down to, I'm putting a big emphasis on nutritional timing and on sleep. And so that those sessions can really go as good as possible. Because I am holding on to training performance for dear life. Because in my eyes, if you're performing like you were, like the muscles got all the reasons to stick around. So I'm really pleased that I'm managing to gut through and keep things going. And yeah, it's not enjoyable anymore, particularly, and it is a battle. But I know it serves a purpose, and that keeps me driven towards that. So no, training's still going okay. The PM sessions, sometimes I'm like, I really want to get this done so I can get home and eat. That's something that's changed. Whereas before I was like, I'm going through to do my PM session. Whereas now it's like, let's get this fucking PM session out of the way so I can go home and eat. I'm still focused and driven and getting training performance and performing. But yeah, my motivation has switched.
Now, you said something about flat and the flat look that you have at the moment. And this is also something that I can confirm because you sent the picture and I said to you like, man, your back looks soft. And this is mostly just due to you being absolutely flat. I would like you to talk a little bit about, first and foremost, flat. And I've made a post even just recently about that looking flat in a diet is absolutely normal. And you actually want this because you don't really want to look full all the time. And also at the same time, then share your experience with Arnie and his current situation where you just refeeded and he started to look better and better and better and better instead of cutting now up until the next show.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
Yeah, no, it's actually a really good and interesting topic. It's also quite a challenging one where if we use Arnie as an example, he was almost kind of looking a bit worse week on week. And he was kind of looking, like you said, softer, which is essentially less condition, which was in his case very much down to the fact that the muscle was less pressing against the skin and he had more subcutaneous water, which was just kind of causing this like blurry look to his physique. And it looked like he was kind of getting fatter, but because thermodynamics and he's being adherent, he's not. So then when we progressively linear loaded him into the first show, every day he was just like revealing new details where it's like, he was like the muscles were slowly filling out, that stress and subcutaneous fluid therefore was reducing, and the inflammation from training and things like this that can sometimes cause some unwanted water retention was dissipating. And suddenly he went from having like not very crisp glutes and like a bit of a soft back to everything hardening up. And the vascularity started to improve. And it was just like, we're revealing all that hard work through this stress dissipation and through essentially filling up the muscle cells with glycogen. And he was just looking better day on day on day. And as we went through that process, his body was also just his metabolic rate was slowly coming up. He was better to digest, absorb and store the glycogen. So he was just getting a better and better look. And that's continuing. It's happened with Jack Rayner as well, where we progressively linear loaded, so just slowly eked up his carbs into his first show. He then had a week and then a second show. And in that week, we just went kind of into a very small deficit, barely a deficit. And then the next week, he was already in such a position where he was less insulin sensitive because he'd got used to carbohydrates. So he could just take them on better and less risk of spilling. And so he looked even better, more full, more conditioned for the next show. And this kind of leads into that discussion surrounding which Andrew Chappelle and Alberto Nunez had about being ready early, where you get to do this kind of almost reverse or metabolic building phase, depending on what you want to call it, or bodybuilding taper, where you do start removing stressors, increasing food. And it depends on the person how long it can take. but sometimes you can reveal details you never thought you actually had. And I think that can sometimes worry people, because you have to look, like you said, there's points at which you need to look flat, because if you're flat and you don't have glycogen stores, what's the body going to be burning? It's going to be burning fat, which is ultimately, you have to go through that phase. If you're looking full all the time, possibly some of that fullness is due to fat as well. And people really chase looking full, so they refeed all the time and they're worried about ever getting flat, and they could cut their progress. Whereas if you embrace a little bit of fat, this kind of like digging period, similar to where I am now, where I'm not a big fan of how my physique's looking. It comes to life when you start feeding it back up. You remove stressors. So where I have, and I sent you a photo,
like a plant, that is kind of lacking water. And
yes,
you actually give it some water, analogy. And then in just a matter of a couple of hours, it's kind of starting to flourish and look alive again.
Yeah, very much so. Even down to people know they wake up and you will always wake up a bit flat. And you're not hydrated.
Pascal
you get some fluids in,
I just
you pump
quickly
up,
wanted to remind you of our
I've already filled out. That's like an acute version of that.
We put a
you can think about that elongated over a week or weeks. So for me, I sent you a photo and I've got like a faint line from the rear in my glute. And I don't think it's the best lighting. I think in person, you'd be able to see a bit more. Fingers crossed. I think you can.
I know you can.
But once I start reducing stress, filling up, that will start hardening and that will start looking better and better. But there's a turning point where you want to switch that. And for some people, you have to decide, is it worth digging them deeper and making them feel worse to try and get that? Or should we start feeding up sooner? Or there's hopefully where I'm going to get to that point where it is that sweet spot where you've finished fat loss, you've lost what you're going to lose. To actually look in better condition, we need to start de-stressing and kind of reducing fatigue and increasing fullness. And you're not now after fat loss, you're after that full conditioned look, which, yeah, hopefully I'll get to.
Yeah. Then going back to Arne's case, you said that he started to look softer and softer and softer. How often did you assess his physique? Was it on a daily basis? And also, did he still lose weight on the scale, or was it actually then starting to be stagnant?
I believe he actually was losing. I'm pretty sure he was still losing on the scale, but we assessed it, I think, a couple of times after refeeding to see if that would dissipate it, and refeed started not dissipating it. So he still looked flat and washed out after refeeds, which I think is another good sign where you need multiple days to be able to get the response that you're looking for from those. So yeah, there was a few weeks where weight was still coming down, but the look wasn't really improving. And it was just a case of it was just being hidden by that kind of stress and fluid retention, which I think it does tend to happen more and more as you get closer towards that very lean physique.
And when did he start to actually look good? How many days did that take?
Like 4 days, I think. Once he was about 4 days in, it was just like his body was just taking everything on. And in fact, his scale weight was continuing to go down, which to me was another sign that stress was just dropping off. So I was like, we need to just keep pushing carbs up. So our progressive linear load, I think we started the week at maybe 200 carbs and we finished at like 450 by the end of the week, which is pretty aggressive, like every day, like more than 50 grams of carbs some days. So yeah, he just looked better every single day.
And in terms of sodium, did you just keep it to a natural intake? So because he then consumed more food, alongside that comes more sodium, and you just kept it at that? Or did you also progressively increase it alongside the carbs as well, alongside with maybe water as well?
So yeah, we knew his water intake was between, I think, something like 4 to 5 liters a day. So I just encouraged him to move more towards the 5 as we started increasing carbs. And I was like, you'll probably feel thirstier anyway. And then the same with sodium. I was just like, if you're having a bit more rice and you salt your rice normally, just salt the extra rice. So we get a bit more sodium. Nothing super precise, but just slightly increasing along with the carbohydrates through the week. So yeah, no major adjustments, but just being aware we might want a little bit more. We're already in a high baseline, and we don't want to vary a ton. So yeah, just have a little bit more. And that seems to work. It's very simple, but it works so nicely.
Yeah, I can see why it works so nicely, because too many people try to make the peak week super complex. And think, especially for natural athletes, that's not what you want to do. That's just my take on the matter.
For me, I'm so much more confident about if someone looks a certain way, what's going to impact their physique, because you keep so many variables the same, and you're just basically changing carbohydrates and maybe training a little bit, but you're aware of what training is going to do. But most other variables are pretty static. So it's just a case of, okay, if you're looking like this, I know I need to go this direction with your carbohydrate intake. And it's nice and simple. And I think people think complicated leads to better results. But as we've talked about so many times, oftentimes the simpler approach, the more understood approach actually leads to the better outcome, rather than like a crapshoot of, I've changed all these things, you look like that. I don't know what we did that made that happen. Let's try this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, very, very interesting. And thanks for sharing. I think there was a lot of great information there. People, you've made a presentation about the linear progressive peak week, right?
I don't know if I have. I probably should, because it's something I've used a lot this season and kind of actually researched a lot as well. Like Dr. Joe has actually a ton of videos that he's done and presented. So yeah, I'll probably do a presentation. I've done one specifically on peak week, but I don't think the progressive linear load exactly. Okay. So I'll probably do one for the members site for sure.
Yeah.
I have a question for you if you're done with questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we were talking off air and you said you were going to get some posing trunks.
Yes.
Is this happening?
I don't think that I'm stepping on stage here this year. I think that...
No, it's not for this season.
No. But I'm getting my posing trunks because I'm now at a level of leanness where, as we discussed, the glutes are coming in. This, to me, then suggests that I don't really have that much to lose around my hip section anymore. And that's why I can get already a posing trunk that doesn't really look... I don't know, too big then at some point. Just for then physique updates and also, just because I want to have it for the future as well. I'm going for an emerald green because I'm someone who loves, like, you know the British racer green?
Yeah.
Something like this. It's just my color. I don't know what it is. My Harley has that color. I'm right now, so I have a BMW R100R. This is also the same color as well. I just love the British racer green, that emerald green color, and that's what I'm going with. And then I will be posing a little bit, see what I look like, and then so what I'm thinking right now is my weight has once again been stubborn this week, a little bit, but I have the feeling that I'm still getting leaner now. I'm still in a deficit, so that's for sure. This is something that I can say wholeheartedly. Maybe I now am at a point where I need to make the consideration of still dropping the calories a little bit more so. I still have room to go for that, but right now I'm just like, I don't want to, because you don't have the incentive for it, right? And then it's like, am I really so concerned about losing a little bit slower, or I don't know. So I need to figure that one out for myself. And then the plan is to get a little bit more lean, and then probably increase the calories after probably October, leading into the next year. And then I very much think that I should go for it next year. Once again, I don't want to make any kind of promises, but I'm in a good position now. And if I can then, for a couple of months, maintain in the sense of like not gaining drastically, and be somewhere in that ballpark,
build your calories up.
Yeah, dissipate a lot of the accumulated dietary fatigue, feel very, very good again, and then have to go for another, I don't know, 10 pounds to 15 pounds to look very good. This is not too far-fetched, and this is realistic. This is nothing crazy. This is something that is sustainable. This is not putting too much pressure on me and my life. My life, I also imply then my family and all that kind of stuff. And I think now would be the time then, like honestly. But of course, you never know what will happen. Last year, at the end of the year, things went south for me in regards to my health. I had a long time to overcome it. And also things happened with Tony where he needed to actually undergo surgery twice. So yeah, you never know what's about to happen, but at the same time I can plan for it. And that's the plan right now. So Yeah.
Something I've definitely learned, and I've spoken to and heard other people talk about, is that unfortunately never seems to be a perfect time. You always want there to be a perfect time, and yours sounds very well set up. It probably won't end up being completely perfect, but I hope it is perfect enough to come through, because that would be really cool.
I mean, I don't need the perfect scenario and perfect time, right? The thing is, sometimes it's there, and sometimes it isn't. That's why it also sometimes nags me when people are then bringing up comments such as over on Instagram, when I was having my mood swings and I was voicing that and said like, if that continues and if that has such a negative impact on my environment, then I have to either do my best job to not let that impact my environment or end the cutting phase. There's no other alternative there. And then people are commenting like, now you're coping out of it again. You're stopping the cutting phase, you son of a bitch, and you pussy, whatever, right? Something like that. Guys, this is not me actually finding or trying to find excuses or anything alike. I mean, the thing is, I just cut it down now and have lines in my glutes without actually wanting to step on stage. This has nothing to do with that. But there are just other things in life that are more important to me than stepping on stage or so, right? And now I got to that point without having wanted to, right? And it just happened to be that way. When I started this cutting phase, I didn't really think that I'd take it that far. It just happened, right? It was just there for me. And I was riding the momentum. And what happens next year, I don't know, but I will try. And if something gets in the way, so be it. I don't need the approval from someone else who then tells me like what of an awful person I was because I wasn't stepping on the bodybuilding stage. Like, honestly, come on.
I can in some way see where they're coming from, but also don't take that the wrong way, in that I absolutely agree with what you're saying. The reason I can only see where they're coming from is because it's a short-sighted, non-contextual view, which is never a good place to try and come from. Whereas you have to be in the context of that individual's situation, because they can't understand. It's like they might, in their head, they might be like, oh, you had one disagreement with your wife and now you're like, step it out of like prep. It's like, no. That's not what it is. And it's frustrating because that's what happens on social media. People see one chunk from your life and they think, oh, I don't know, they might think your life's amazing, or they think it's terrible, or they just judge you on that one shot. And it's like, that's the downside to social media. And that's why they should tune into this, so they get a better understanding. But they're the type of person that would never tune in.
No, I think so. And yeah, to be honest, the thing is, I would always choose other things over stepping on the bodybuilding stage. There are so many things that I prioritize. No, but in all honesty, right? When there are things that are going on in my life, the things that we talked about, right? If I have the feeling that the something like a prep, which I didn't do now, right? So I don't even know why it's justified to actually give me a hard time or so. And I'm still cutting, right? I'm still cutting. Then I don't think that it's justified in actually bringing something like this up, because there are just certain things that are more important to me. This doesn't mean that it's more important to the other person, but to me it is, right? And that can even be something that the other person really thinks is the least important thing in the world. It could be that it is, for me, super important, right? So, once again, to go back to what it is that we originally talked about, that's the current plan. But as we all know in life, plans can actually go completely a different way. And either you adapt and adjust the plans, or you need to take a completely different route and go the other way. We will have to wait and see what will come out of the next couple of months. The way that I feel right now, feeling good, but this can always change, right?
I have one quick fire question. Have you shaved your legs?
Not yet, but funny enough, just 2 days ago, I was thinking about it. Honestly,
it's not a nice experience, but it can reveal.
It reveals a lot, especially because my legs are hairy. Yeah. And I was really considering this just because sometimes it gives you the really false impression of how lean you are. I had just one of my athletes who just went to a photo shoot, and he had or has normally quite a hairy upper body and was looking all right. But once he shaved off, once he had some good lighting on him, once he was a little bit oiled up, man, he looked good. God damn, he looked good. Right? Sometimes this gives you a very much wrong impression of how lean it is how fat it is that you still are. Yeah. So I will probably do that the next days. But I want Katie to see this so that she's shocked. I'm trying to set it up like this, like sitting in the bathtub with like, what was it called again? Like a hat, right? Then there's bubbles all around me. Some kind of like a Virgin song. Then I'm sitting in the bathroom or bathtub rather, right, singing along, having the razor of Katie, and then shaving my legs, having maybe a lipstick on or so, and then just looking shocked when she's entering the room. Just to shock her.
Charlotte hates it when I have shaved like legs. She's just like, it feels wrong that it's smooth.
Like a virgin.
Oh dear. Awesome. And on that bombshell, everyone would be DMing you for shaved leg pics and tips. Yeah. And
maybe I will just set it up for the Instagrams where I'm then really singing in the bathtub with lipstick
on. Do it live.
Yeah, and singing like a virgin.
Oh dear. Guys, as always, like, subscribe, comment, let us know your thoughts, feelings towards any of this if you relate to anything. Always nice to hear. Always appreciate the reshares over on Instagram as well. I think a lot of people like kind of listening to their podcast, particularly the improvement season, whilst on their walks. So I'm glad to be in your ears and encouraging you to get that neat up. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Cheers, guys.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people. But each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.